Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague from Washington, D.C., Jagriti Dave. Namaste, Jagriti.
Namaste, Tanvi. It's 10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. and 3 in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, the United States says it was not involved or made aware of the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, and continued protests in Venezuela following elections marred by accusations of fraud. We'll speak to our correspondents from around the world. But first, the headlines.
Worldwide condemnation after the assassination of Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urges not to be distracted, stresses on continuing ceasefire talks for Gaza. Venezuela's latest election raises red flags across Latin America. EU chief calls for full vote count in this election dispute. Death toll in Wayanad landslides in India's southern state of Kerala crosses 150. Rescue operations on in war footing as many more people are feared trapped. And Vietnamese Prime Minister visits New Delhi. India's External Affairs Minister calls on PM Pham Minh Chinh. Both seek to deepen Act East partnerships. Hamas's leader Ismail Haniyeh has been assassinated in Iran's Tehran. Iran Now News confirmed the death, saying that Hamas chief Haniyeh's residence was hit by an airborne projectile. In a statement, Hamas mourned the death of Haniyeh, who it said was killed in a, quote, treacherous Zionist raid on his residence in Tehran. The Revolutionary Guards confirmed that the residence of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran was struck in the morning, resulting in his and one of his bodyguards' death. The cause is under investigation and will be announced soon. Defense Minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, said on Wednesday that Israel is not seeking to escalate the war, but is preparing to handle all scenarios, while praising forces who carried out an attack on a Hezbollah commander in Beirut overnight.
The performance at night in Beirut was focused, high quality and contained. We don't want war, but we are preparing for all possibilities, and that means you must be prepared as needed. And we will do our job at all the levels. Above you, thank you and much appreciated.
And our correspondent Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv now. So Sarah, have Israeli authorities responded to Haniyeh's assassination, since Hamas have directly blamed them for it?
Hello there, Tanvi. Very little from the Israelis. The ministers have reportedly been instructed by the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, to keep quiet. Now, we have heard from the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant. He's come out to say that Israel doesn't want war, but is prepared for it. Now, we've also heard from the Foreign Minister, Israel Katz. He sent a letter to dozens of foreign ministers around the world. He said that Israel is not interested in an all-out war, but the only way to prevent it is the immediate implementation of UN Resolution 1701, which would push Hezbollah fighters further north back behind the Litani River. Now, we are expecting Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, to hold a security briefing in the coming hours. But it certainly is a very tense time here on the ground, despite the IDF's Home Front Command issuing a statement to Israelis saying that right now its directorate hasn't changed at all, but it will update people if necessary.
Sarah Coates in Tel Aviv, thank you very much for those updates. So as our correspondent was saying, it's a very tense situation as regards the conflict is between Israel and Hamas stands at the moment. And to understand it better, we are now joined by Elijah J. Maniar. He's a veteran war zone journalist and political analyst with nearly 4 decades of experience covering the Middle East and North Africa. He joins us from Paris, France. Welcome, sir, to the program. What does Ismail Haniyeh's assassination mean for Hamas, and what does it mean for the conflict in Gaza?
Thank you for having me. For Hamas, it's a symbolic gesture because Ismail Haniyeh was the political leader and mainly running the negotiation with the Israelis, the Americans, the Qatari, and the Egyptians to try and reach an agreement to put an end to the war in Gaza. It is also a symbolic victory to Israel, but it is not going to change anything in the organigram of Hamas. That is certainly going to appoint a new leader after his burial on Friday. However, that shows the Israeli will to enlarge the war, despite the announcement of the Israeli defense minister that Israel is not interested in the war, because an objective in Beirut was attack, and a leader, the highest commander, military commander, was assassinated in the capital, in the suburb of Beirut. Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran. An Iranian advisor was assassinated in Damascus. Yesterday evening, the Hashd Shabi in Iraq, Baghdad, were attacked. And a few days ago, Al-Hudaydah in Yemen was bombed by the Israelis. So we see messages going across all the members of the axis of the resistance and showing the intention of Benjamin Netanyahu to escalate, because all these hits will require a retaliation undoubtedly. The problem is when different members of the axis of the resistance will retaliate, what is going to be the position of Israel? Are they going to a retaliation to the retaliation? That means going gradually to an all-out war. But if the Israelis accept the hit coming from the axis of the resistance and everybody return to the rules of engagement prior the last 24 hours, then the war will continue as it is.
Does this assassination give a lifeline to Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been facing questions about his leadership back home?
If the axis of the resistance is going to retaliate without hitting civilians and without enlarging the war, then yes, it will give him domestic victory that he can capitalize on for some time. But if the axis of the resistance is going to enlarge the war and hit different objectives like in Haifa or Tel Aviv, then that will help to his fall rather than for him to stay in power, because then he is bringing more destruction to Israel, and this will be beneficial only for his position as a prime minister, but not for the interest of Israel. And so everything is playing in the next 48 hours, 72 hours to see what is going to be the reaction. Are the members of the axis of the resistance going to hit hard to impose deterrence? Then this is not going to be in favor of Netanyahu. But are they going to try and avoid an all-out war? Then he's going to hit back again, and this is where he's going to drag other people, including the Americans, if they want or not, because they can't stop from defending Israel even if they disagree with Netanyahu. And then slowly but surely, everybody will be dragged into a place where nobody, at the exception of Benjamin Netanyahu, wants.
Okay. Elijah J. Maniar, thank you very much for your analysis on the story. Now, world has reacted to the assassination of Hamas's political chief in Iran. Russia has condemned the killing of Hamas chief and called on all parties to refrain from steps that could tip the Middle East into a wider war. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan condemned the assassination of Hamas leader killing and said that it would not break the will of Palestinians. The Prime Minister of Qatar suggested on Wednesday that the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh could jeopardize efforts to secure a truce in Gaza. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim also expressed his condolences in a phone call with senior official Bassem Naim and called this assassination attempt madness. So following the list of reactions, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that nothing should take away from the importance of getting to the ceasefire in Gaza. My colleague Jagriti Dave is in Washington, D.C. She takes it forward from me here, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Jagriti, U.S. clearly saying that they were neither aware of or involved in this assassination of Haniyeh.
Yes, Tanvi. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Wednesday that the US was not involved in or made aware of the assassination of Hamas's leader. Speaking to the media, Mr. Blinken said it was important to keep focused on ceasefire negotiations, arguing that it was in the interest of all those affected by the war, including women, children and hostages.
From the importance of, as I said a moment ago, getting to the ceasefire, which is manifestly in the interests of the hostages and bringing them home. It's manifestly in the interests of Palestinians who are suffering terribly every single day. Children, women, men in Gaza who've been caught in this crossfire of Hamas's making. It's profoundly in the interest of trying to put things on a better path, not only in Gaza, but actually throughout the region, because so much is tied to what's happening in Gaza right now.
Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said he does not think that war is inevitable in the Middle East. He added that if Israel is attacked, the US will come to its defense.
If Israel is attacked, we certainly will help defend Israel. You saw us do that in April. You can expect to see us do that again. But we don't want to see any of that happen. We're going to work hard to make sure that we're doing things to help take the temperature down and address issues through diplomatic means.
Let's get more from DD India's Nick Harpo, who is here with me in Washington. Hi, Nick. Just tell us more about the US reaction and in particular concerns about this escalating into a wider conflict.
Jagriti, as we heard there, Antony Blinken has been speaking about the situation, saying the US did not know about the strike in advance and was not involved, and now trying to focus efforts on de-escalation. He said that that was the US focus ahead of this strike, and it remains so now, trying to de-escalate, he said, the conflict that occurred in Gaza and making sure that it doesn't escalate further. Part of the problem, though, for the United States in particular, that's been pushing hard on this, is what happens now in trying to achieve a ceasefire and the hostage release. Those ceasefire talks, that negotiation that was taking place, really now comes to a crucial point, because the Hamas leader that was killed was a key party in that negotiation, and Qatar, who was helping to facilitate it, has said, quite strikingly, how can ceasefire talks succeed when one side kills a negotiator? So it's unclear where things will move from now. Antony Blinken was asked about that. He didn't want to speculate, but he said de-escalation and pushing ahead with the peace talks, however is possible, will be the focus of the United States now. And he said, once again, reiterating that really the main goal of those peace talks, as well as ending the violence in Gaza, is releasing the hostages. But that fear at the back of everyone's minds here in Washington is, will this spark a wider conflict? What will Iran's response for having that strike on its own territory be? What will Hamas and Hezbollah do as a result of that strike? Will this lead to a wider regional conflict? Obviously, that is something that the United States during this 9 months has been working hard to try and prevent. This latest strike, especially as it happened inside Iran, certainly raises that fear that we could see this as a point where there is that possibility of escalation.
Thank you, Nick, for bringing us up to date. That was Nick Harper reporting live from Washington. Well, Venezuelans living in Latin American countries, including Argentina, Mexico and Chile, have taken to the streets to protest and demand transparency in their home country's recent elections. Protests have erupted across Venezuela since Monday after the electoral authority there declared that President Nicolas Maduro had won a third term. The US-based Carter Center, which observed the vote, said the election did not meet international standards or electoral integrity and cannot be considered democratic. Russia and China have congratulated Maduro on his win, while many countries have demanded an audit of the election results. The United States is also considering fresh sanctions on Venezuela. Meanwhile, the European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, has said that the bloc could not recognize Venezuela's election result until all the votes were counted. Borrell said they will decide on possible next steps only after the full results are made available.
The National Electoral Council of Venezuela has only presented results for the 80% of the vote. They didn't finish to 100%. They only announced the result for 80% of the vote. Transparency and integrity of the electoral process has to be ensured, and this requires a verification, an independent verification of the official voting records on any of polling stations.
Now, every night since the Paris Games officially started, thousands of people have gathered to watch the Olympic flame as it rises in a hot air balloon above the French capital. When the sun goes down, the iconic cauldron rises around 2,000 feet in the air and looks like a ring of fire. The cauldron stands near the Louvre Museum at the Parc des Tuileries, and visitors can see it free of charge at sunset as long as they book their spot online. And that's it from me here in Washington. Back to you in the studio, Tanvi.
Thank you very much, Jagriti Dave, joining us all from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global. Back to New Delhi now. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, called on the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Pham Minh Chinh, on Wednesday. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh is on a state visit to India from 30th July to 1st of August this year. Both the leaders discussed bilateral relationship, regional and global issues of mutual interest. The meeting sets the stage for a forthcoming summit between Prime Minister Chinh and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, aimed at further strengthening ties between the two countries. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitaraman on Wednesday addressed various accusations from opposition parties regarding Budget 2024. She said that the budget considers all sectors of the economy and provides adequate funding for every state.
Since 2014, the principle which has guided us is the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas, which continues in this budget as well, and hopefully will guide for the next 5 years, the 5 years being, this set of 5 years being very critical in taking the first steps towards building a Vikasit Bharat by 2047.
And on to the southern part of India, the death toll in landslides that hit the Indian state of Kerala's Wayanad district has crossed 150 as more bodies are retrieved from the debris. India's Southern Naval Command dispatched a disaster relief team of 68 personnel, including medical team and equipment, Medical camps have also been set up to provide aid. 19 workers have been rescued so far. Indian Air Force helicopters distributed 250 kg of food and drinking water provided by Kozhikode District Administration to the flood-affected areas. So massive landslides hit Kerala's Wayanad district. Now, Assistant High Commissioner of India at Kandy handed over books to University of Peradeniya. The move aims to deepen India-Sri Lanka connections. The books were contributed to the Indian Corner, established at the main library last year. It offers access to a variety of books in various fairs, including English literature, Hindi and Tamil literature, Indian art, culture, among other topics. The India Corner is designed with exhibits to give a visual experience of Indian classical music, Indian musical instruments, festivals, cuisine and other cultural elements to showcase the heritage and diversity of the country. Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh Pranay Verma called on Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at her official residence in Dhaka on Wednesday. During the meeting, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina said that the recent quota reform movement in the nation was like a terrorist attack intended to topple the government. The Prime Minister and the Indian High Commissioner expressed their condolences at the loss of lives and properties in the student-led agitation that killed at least 150 people this month. The Indian High Commissioner welcomed the gradual resumption of economic activities throughout Bangladesh. The Indian Air Force will be hosting its first multinational air exercise, Tarang Shakti, in August and September this year in 2 stages at Sulur in Tamil Nadu and Jodhpur in Rajasthan. The first phase will be held in the south of India at Sulur. It will see participation from the air forces of Germany, France, Spain and the United Kingdom. The second phase will occur in Jodhpur, Rajasthan in the month of September. The Indian Air Force will deploy Rafale aircrafts, Tejas light combat aircraft, Sukhoi 30 Make-1 Mirage 2000 and Jaguar fighters. The German, Spanish and UK air forces will join with their Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft, while Australia, the UAE and the USA will bring F-18 fighters. France's air force will participate with their Rafale fighter jets.
International air exercise ever conducted in India, with invitations extended to 51 countries. This exercise aims to strengthen strategic relations with our friends from international community. Complex missions are planned to enhance our mutual understanding of air operations, air power application, and also practicing multiple combat scenarios in the realistic environment. It is also an excellent opportunity for all of us to share our best practices with each other.
And next we take a look at what else is making news around the world. Amid tensions on the Korean peninsula, the US and South Korean militaries conducted joint military drills to evaluate combat capabilities of their deployment units. The exercises are being conducted at the Rodriguez Live Fire Complex in Poncheon near Seoul, and they will end on August the 3rd. A stalemate between the Cyprus government and the United Nations has left around 40 people stranded in a no-man's land for over 3 months now. While Cyprus declines to take the refugees in, the United Nations says it is obligated to do so, citing international conventions. Spain's weather agency has issued alerts for wildfires as the 3rd heat wave of the season is set to reach its peak soon, with many areas witnessing over 40 degrees of temperatures. This comes after 2 provinces of Cuenca and Alicante were still reeling under blazes, prompting evacuation of about 300 people. And firefighters struggle to tackle blazes close to Croatia's coastline and an airport as wildfires continue raging in Greece and the Balkans due to prolonged scorching weather. Experts blame these climate situations along with strong winds to be the cause behind such uncontrolled wildfires. And a giant panda called Ding Ding celebrated her 7th birthday in an enclosure of the Moscow Zoo on Tuesday. Ding Ding was presented a festive table made of bamboo and a fruity birthday cake. Take a look. Ding Ding enjoying her 7th birthday. That's all in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles. And of course, for those on the go, you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates. So we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team here in New Delhi and elsewhere in the world. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.